Trademark. I'm Stephen Hawkins.
And I'm Sean. The other guy's an asshole. This is Barstools and Bandtalk.
The complete maritime music bucket list. But I think, you know what? We're the Maritimes. We're everywhere. We're everywhere that you need us to be. And we're here in Metro today. We're going to talk to a local hero. Been around for a long time. My friend Sean set this one up. I met this guy sorry, again, I'm an asshole. Just a little while ago, probably about a year and a half ago. And was super impressed with his guitar playing, his singing, just a real natural. Sean's known him for quite a long time. Bring him on, Sean.
Well, I've known this guy for probably 15 years. And the way that I met him is I was playing in a band called Cape Breton, and we used to do Wednesday nights at the Ale House. And he would play, the old triangle and stuff like that. And he would always come up after his shows, and he'd come and watch us. And ever a gracious guy, never a bad word to say about anybody, super supportive, and just a great musician, great fella. And I am super honored to have and introduce Mr. Roger Stone, Cape Breton Zone from St. Peter's.
There he is.
Miss America.
There you go. What's up, brother?
It's Miss America.
There's a face I recognize.
That's right. So I said in the intro, I've known you about 15 years. I got to know you at the Ale House, both when you were playing there and you would be doing gigs and then come up on the Wednesday nights that we used to be playing there. But so let's just talk about because you've done a ton. You've played with a lot of different people. You're one of those guys that really could talk about the whole, playing on Cape Breton Island way back when it was a really big thing. But why don't you just give us a little crash course on Roger Stone?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I come from a musical family, right? So I've been on stage since I was 5.
Wow.
Years old. My father was a piper in the Black Watch in the Army. My mother was a dance teacher. Dad became a fiddle teacher later in years. So I kind of grew up in that tradition, right? Teaching. There's a lot of stuff I'm not filling in here. So, back in the day, you could join the union and get a letter, and you were allowed to play before you were actually 19. So I was playing at like 17 or something. So that was 1977. I turned 19 in 79 and started playing. There was periods when I didn't play, but I've played, for 40 years essentially. So
that's a big Tim Hortons cup, brother. That's a big Tim Hortons.
Yeah, but it's not coffee. It's herb tea. Yeah,
mine's coffee.
No fire tea. Yes, of course it is.
We'll probably hop around here, Roger. But
that's good. I like that.
Well, when I first met you, you were playing at the Ale House with where you were saying too many Daves, but it was Doyle, Glant, Dobson, yourself. You guys were so 3 killer guitar players that all had different styles that blended together really well, and then Mike, just wicked voice.
I liked Dave Glant used to like me to play the banjo too, because we had 3 guitars, so I did play. Even there, I played banjo. Yeah, but mostly guitar.
Well, I just remember that band was, no drums, and to be honest with you, as a drummer, I never found that I missed it because it was just very musical. You guys all sang. Mike had a great voice. You all filled in the pieces, and it was
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a fun band. And you guys played the Ale House quite a bit. You were like us, in Caper. You had a regular sort of spin there every 4 or 5 weeks.
When it opened, they used to come down to the Triangle to see us all play, and they were kind of sniffing around to see who they were going to use, kind of thing. So yeah, we became, there was us and Doug Sampson's band, like Fear of the Dog and stuff.
Wow, that's a band I haven't. You know what? That's a long time since I heard, because I think you started playing there maybe a month or 2 before I did, but I'm one of the dare I say, the year that place opened, I started there the second month that it opened, and I've played there in one way, shape, or form since it's been open as the Ale House.
Yeah,
and,
I played in a couple. But back then, you know, we were doing like, I think it was, if you can correct me, but I think we were doing like from 10 to 3:30 or something. It was 5 sets or something.
Yeah.
It was pretty nuts.
Well, I don't, you know, the 3:30 thing, it used to be 3 o'clock. The 3:30 thing came because unfortunately our band, because at the time we weren't playing a lot, so we wanted to play till 3:30 because we liked to play, and then the boys are like, "Oh, everybody plays till 3:30 now." So you got
you don't start to 12 though, right? You don't start.
Thanks, Sean. No, dude.
Yeah,
we started at 10.
Yeah.
But now you don't start till 12 though, right?
Yeah, now they start later. But yeah, I mean, it made sense. There was nobody in there, but the way we looked at it, and same with Sean and them guys, you'd work on your new material, kind of, you know, for that first set or so, and it was just kind of, I don't know, drink some beer and have some fun, you know.
Well, take us way back then, Roger. So you left. So you're from St. Peter's, and
Correct.
so and you're a musical family. So did you actually play on the island, or did you come right to Halifax and start playing then, or how did it start?
No. We played there. Cyril McPhee and I played together a lot. He's another caper. You know, we started out doing folky stuff, and then we got kind of hooked into the. Started playing banjo, I think, when I was like 14 or something. There was only a couple of banjo players in Cape Breton. So we started going to bluegrass festivals and got sucked into that whole kind of. It was a really cool world because it wasn't like, you know, wacky acid trips like going to, you know. But so it was pretty, you know, cool because you could leave your stuff, your guitar and your stuff in your tent and go, and there was never anything stolen that I can ever remember or any of that kind of stuff. So it was pretty awesome. And, you know, they quickly taught us how to not be crazy buggers, you know. You know, like they put you in the wild guy section till you grew up, and then they'd allow you to stay close to the stage where normal human beings were. That kind of stuff, you know.
Whatever normal is, yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
So now you're playing banjo, you're doing bluegrass. So what happens next?
Well, like, you know, years passed by. I went back to trips back and forth to Ontario. You know, always was a big Beatle guy. I was like bluegrass, Beatles, trad stuff. Well, I'd say trad, but I always call it, we call it maritime music, you know, taking the party to the stage.
Right.
But I always loved Bob Marley and the Beatles and all that kind of stuff, you know. So I listened to a lot of stuff. I grew up listening to everything from, you know, the Clancy Brothers and Irish music to, you know, Jeff Beck and ZZ Top and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I mean, I may not be as cultured as some young guys were when they were 17 that I grew up with, but I knew I listened to lots of Floyd and, you know, that kind of stuff, yeah.
So who would have some of your influences have been? Because my thing about you is every time I've seen you play, you know, and I've talked to you about this, you never overplay. You always seem to play whatever is required. And
well,
you do. And I mean, like, you're going to probably go, but
no, man. I worked hard at that, Sean.
Yeah. And I mean, and I've told you that a bunch of times. I mean, like, you play, it's funny how, you know, yeah, if there was a fine system for somebody that played too many notes, you never get fined because you always seem to play what's required, but you always make a statement.
Growing up with a, you know, my father was a fiddler, but he was also an accompanist. So, you know, he used to say, the company is, you're backing somebody up. That's why they call it that. Don't push them up, down, or up the hill, you know. So, yeah, I mean, there's a whole period that we haven't discussed where I did a lot of commercials and things, and I would lay down rhythm tracks and guitar. And so you learn to be really, you know, I'm going to use the word simple, but really, you know, you're a drummer. So laying down the important stuff. I did a lot of James Taylor stuff when I was younger. I did a lot of commercials where they wanted me to do that kind of singing, you know, that kind of warm and fuzzy coming by Honda, you know. You know. So yeah.
How ironic is that Dave works at Honda and you brought that up, so that's interesting. But the other thing too, Roger, and I mean, I've said this to you too. I mean, I'm not going to say all guitar players are this way, but I've you know, some guitar players, especially when they're playing rhythm, aren't necessarily tight and their timing can be a little. But I always find you're A, you play what's required, and B, your timing is always great. And those are things I notice as a player, right?
Yep.
Well, first of all, thank you. And secondly, it's probably miraculous because I was drunk.
Well,
But all that aside, I mean, I played a lot. Like I said, on a lot of albums where I was playing back rhythm stuff, and you get used to using click tracks as much as I never liked click tracks. I'd always get them when possible to put the bass drum there, so it sounded like something real, not click, click, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, playing bluegrass is all about being a gentleman, or you know, that's I'm saying me, a lady if you're a lady, but you understand your place, right?
Right.
Yep.
So you know, the Beatles learned, all those British guys learned that skiffle stuff and all that. So it was really very much about using one microphone and coming in, singing and taking your solo and backing off and inserting your stuff when it was necessary. You know, that kind of.
Yeah, that's a good call, because I mean, again, I've only seen you just a couple of times, but it was, Sean kind of nailed it. It was very appropriate playing, you know. But at the same time, now I went out to see, because I thought you were playing with Dave Bradshaw when he's a good friend of mine, but he wasn't there. You were doing it as a solo act, but it was again very, very full, very rich sounding by yourself, and that's impressive to me.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I did a lot of I played the K side and the Sheraton and places like that. Arnold Sampson and myself back in '86 to like maybe '89 or something. So you had to learn to take solos and play rhythm at the same time. And
right.
so yeah, you learn how to do that stuff when you're playing. Solo is the greatest teacher, I think, in terms of understanding. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, well, if my voice is 8, my guitar should be 6, not 11. You know what I mean? So you learn this where to place it. You know, that's one of the things I like about Sean's playing. You know, I grew up with Beatles, and you know, people would say, "Oh, Ringo wasn't a good drummer." Like, okay, whatever that your opinion is about that. A drummer that knows how to play with singers is far more valuable than the guy that thinks he's, you know, touring with ZZ Top. You know?
And you know what? That's a great point. I was watching this thing on Drumeo today, and Greg Bissonette, who monster jazz guy who played with David Lee Roth as well, and a bunch of guys, he was breaking down a Ringo Starr tune, and I'm sitting there going, holy crap. I mean, not super hard, but to play it like Ringo. Don Henley's another guy I like to reference. Yeah, he might not blow you away with technical ability, but try to play like Don Henley.
I got you guys I don't want to, it's just because we're talking about this. So last year I was playing the Crow. You know, there's always that night when you gotta wait, you gotta rattle yourself every now and then and go, okay, dude, you're falling into that rut, wake up. Anyway, so I started that week off kind of slow. So anyway, this one night I was taking my gear to the car, crossing the Crow, and these guys were walking down the hill, and they're like, where are you playing, dude? I said, well, I'm in here. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and grab a beer and come up later. So they came back, and I thought, yeah, it's a bunch of guys, you know. But anyway, so they come up. I could see this one tall guy can go to the washroom several times, and he was like going back up, and he's yammering, and Wayne's pointing to me. And anyway, it turns out it's these guys, Hotel California, the guys from town. And they said, look, you know, in 30 some years of playing, nobody's ever opened for us, but we can't believe you're guitar playing and you're singing. So we'd like you to come and open for us.
Nice.
It didn't happen because their promoter wasn't here, but it was, you know, it was a pretty big compliment. So it goes back to that thing that you're talking about, Henley. Well, I got to know the guy, the drummer in that band, and he's actually, his mom was from Ireland. Like, so all these guys that I met over the years, the lead singer Nazareth and all these, they were all former hippie trad players, kind of, you know what I mean? Like they grew up playing stuff. So, you know, you never know. You cannot judge a book by its cover. You know, there's a reason why Scott Bond was called Scott Bond.
Yeah.
He was a Scot and he was a bagpiper, you know what I mean? So, you know, style has nothing to do with how good a player, in my own opinion, you are. It's about Ringo was a good player because he listened and he backed singers.
You know what? Thank you for saying that, because that's I'm not going to say an argument that I've had with people. Dave and I have talked about this a lot. There's something to be said, hugely said, for air between notes and pause.
That's where the music is.
Right?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
But
yeah, well, one of the. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, a lot of people are so, you know what it's like. You see somebody, you know they're a player, and it's like, do I fire 18 notes in a bar and a half, or do I let it breathe? And one of the things for me, and I will say, Roger, thank you so much, because you were very good for my ego every time you came out, because I really tried to do that. I kind of changed my playing and went from
Honestly,
being an over the top shithead to trying to be more of a groove guy. And
you're a great player. It's great
thank
fun.
you so much. And I mean, but again, you would, talking to you would point things out that were going on that I was like, wow. And now even today, I think it's so important you mentioned compliment the singer. That's what I try to do now. I try to compliment the singer, right?
Well, Jesus, dude. I mean, not even talking about drumming, one of the greatest things that when you're talking about that, one of the things that popped into my mind was, Neil Sean playing behind Steve Perry. Like everything Steve would sing, Neil Sean would play on the guitar. Like, just open your ears, man, and listen to the guys around you. We're not all solo rock stars on stage at the same time.
That's right.
Really.
And there's bands like that too, and it's kind of cool. And Sean and I have talked about this a lot because I never pretend to be a virtuoso player, but I like to play, like where it should be. I play appropriately, and like I say, compliment whatever people are there to see. If it's the singer, if it's if it's a trio, if it's whatever, you just got to play your part. It doesn't have to be always virtuoso all the time. It's interesting you said that.
Bruce Lee said a couple of important things. I don't talk a lot about being a martial artist, but I am. But he said, simply simplify and daily decrease, not daily increase. So he said,
powerful.
Man.
You know what? I have another friend who I was talking to today. We were talking about this thing. He's the musician, and he goes, the confidence of not playing when you can. He goes, he likens it to the fat guy wearing the Speedo on the beach, who he's like, that guy's got a ton of confidence because he's wearing that Speedo and he doesn't care because he's, and he's like not playing too much.
That's funny.
And I was just like, wow, what a great analogy. I got what he meant. But my point is, it's like, it's really hard, but it takes a lot of maturity to do what's right as opposed to do what you won't think everybody's going to be impressed by.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's right.
Right.
Okay, so how about this? If you're teaching somebody how to, like you're a drummer, Sean. So if you're teaching kids how to count, even if they don't read, if you start with your foot in the air and you say 1 is when my foot goes down, then they understand what and is. So in music, if you don't know where the ands are, how you have no concept of real time because you're rushing things together. The and has to be there, or it's rushed. So playing with drum machines or playing with a solid drummer, these are the things that teach you that, right?
Yeah. Amen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's kind of cool. I had to read that from a book, Bass Player for Dummies. I got when I first started playing bass. It was one of those coolest books, and it said just that very same thing, that the music is between the notes. And Sean and I talk about that too. Allow things to breathe and just to be, it's nice.
We simply put it this way: you teach people how to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and what's cool rhythm is what you subtract from that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what people don't understand that we're doing. They think we're making up all these No, we're taking stuff out, guys. We're subtracting, not adding. Right?
Well, you know what? And the thing that I always liked about hanging out with you and we sit around for a beer, you would always compliment not on the things that you played, but on the things that you didn't, and you would always point that out. And and again, I can't overstate this enough, man. You gotta be pretty comfortable to do that when everybody's going, oh my God, you played a million notes in that. And, like Malcolm Young from AC/DC, in my opinion, was one of the best guitar players ever.
No kidding.
Because what he did can't be replicated.
I guess if I were talking about me back in those days when we were talking a lot, I didn't play with a lot of drummers, over in the years, because we did a lot of folky stuff. But in a bluegrass band situation, for example, the mandolin player is the drummer. But when I'd be talking to you, and I remember we used to sit in that room where all the gambling machines were, and I would say things that I noticed that you did, and you would explain to me what you did, what you didn't or did do. I didn't know what it was that you were doing, and I would say, you played brush on that certain song or whatever. And I remember us talking things. You know?
I'll be honest with you, Roger. I didn't know what I was doing either, but I just tried to, make good conversation. No, I'm kidding. But no, my point in this whole thing is that, it's for me, and actually, it was a huge part of me playing the bars during that time, because I really did enjoy sitting down and talking. Because again, it was a conversation not about shredding, it was about music and about musicality and fun stuff like that, right?
We're not 20 anymore, none of us, So I think it's the guys like yourselves that we're having this conversation right now. So it's the all this talk about the world is talking about racism and love and respect and all this stuff, but sometimes we don't honor the people that came before us. We shouldn't honor them for just honoring them, but when I sit down, like recently I downloaded John Campbell. I grew up, he's actually a family member, but I listened to the album that he just did with Wayne Nicholson. I mean, what these two cats have done in their lives, and to put these two guys together and listen to Wayne Nicholson singing blues stuff. Like for me, I don't know him as a blues guy. I know him as Oakley and all that stuff. But man, I'll tell you, never underestimate these dudes, because you don't know where you're going to see them and what they're going to pop up in.
Absolutely.
And when they're going to, right?
And when they'll kick your ass, because you know what, Doug McKay was like that for me. I remember hearing the legend of Doug McKay, and then actually seeing Doug McKay, and there's a story that I have. Doug McKay and Ainsley, I couldn't play a shuffle until I was 21 years old. True story. Being at the ale house one night, and they were both there, and then on a break home, they're saying, "What the frig are you doing?" and teaching me how to play a shuffle. But Doug, just the feel and the understanding.
Ainsley was the man, dude. Like Ainsley knew that stuff. Yeah. Well,
unbelievable. And I mean, just do it in his sleep, right?
Yeah. Well, again, to get back to where we started here, I think, we're talking about fundamental stuff as well. There's no advanced G chord on the guitar. So my point is going to be this, that nothing discouraged. I would say, I hate to use the word turns me off, but when I see a great singer who is a songwriter, I don't like somebody calling themselves a singer-songwriter, because if you haven't got a guitar in your hands and you're not singing, then you're not a singer-songwriter. But anyway, a great singer, great lyrics, but you're a shitty rhythm player, right? If I can say that, I'm sorry.
But, there's no fucking censors here, no.
You know what I'm saying, guys? It's like, come on, man. This is what you do. It's like getting in a dirty cab. This is your office, dude. Vacuum it, clean it. If you're on stage and you're playing, get your shit together, because you know what? I was in Nashville, okay? And, the guy putting gas in your car would kick your ass any day of the week. It's because there's millions of people in America, thousands and thousands and thousands are in Nashville. And if you're not good at that, so I ran into this guy playing bluegrass, and he said to me, you're a very good player, but he said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you what to do. And you're going to be in the studio playing rhythm when all your buddies are playing hockey and haven't got a gig. and he showed me what simplicity was, and how to keep that meter, that the old George Jones records and all that. He had that guy in the back that was doing. You saw it on the Grand Ole Opry. The guy that's always doing this in the background.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from a bluegrass guy. How to be what he considered to be an excellent bluegrass player.
What?
And that guy worked with everybody, and nobody knew his name, probably, right?
Exactly.
But he got the work. He got the work consistently because he was good at what he did. That's a really good point, Roger. See, I hope you're all paying attention now, kids.
Yeah,
well, you know what? And I knew having this chat with Roger, I knew that was going to come out, because, he and I, and like when I say we spent a lot of time together, we spent a lot, like every friggin' Wednesday night for probably 10 years at the ale house.
Every Wednesday I was gigging and I could go up and see you guys. I always did.
Right. And I mean, it was just like, these are the conversations Roger and I would have. And it was great, because it would be like, and don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be blowing smoke up your ass. Like, hey, Sean,
no.
Missed something there, bud. Like, what's going on? And it was great, but it was like having a coach in a weird sort of way. It was
Yeah. You know what? That's a good point. Having a coach, and this is what the Maritimes are all about. It's like, there's a little bit of, there's egos and icons or whatever else, but I mean, by and large, it's still a community. It's a family.
what you're really saying is what I'm hearing, and I hope that the people listening to this will hear. A father taught his son to fish. A carpenter taught his son to do carpentry. We come from a tradition of passing on stuff. That's really
Right.
what this is. It's not about Roger having all the answers and talking to Sean. It was about me going up and recognizing that Sean was a good musician, very good musician. Sheldon was a brilliant guitar player. Like Scotty was a mate. Like these guys were no joke, right? And when you put the name Caper on your band, yeah, I'm gonna go sue you because I'm from there. And if you suck, I'm probably gonna tell you.
Yeah, and you did every now and again for sure.
Oh, well, that's called taking the piss out of you, buddy. That's all that is.
Well, but you know what, man? And I mean, no lie, I'm kind of, my MO is sometimes I don't take feedback, but your feedback was always presented anyway to me in a manner that I didn't want to punch you in the face. It was just like, it was welcome, right?
We had lots of wonderful chats, I learned
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when all this shit is finally over, we need to get together for a beer. Because like I said before we started recording, it's probably been 3 years since I sat down with you and just, chewed the fat, right?
Ironically, I haven't drank in 2 years. I was drinking lots back in those days, but
yeah.
Well, we can sit down and have a drink, but I may not be having a beer with
Herbal
you.
tea.
Something. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's not about that, dude. It's like I just wanted my game. I wanted to be on my game. You know what I mean? I was starting to, even though I had good timing and I knew I could do it. There's nobody, maybe Jimmy Sweeney in the trap. There's nobody out there that knows any more about traditional music. I don't mean to be. I'm just saying I know those tunes. If we're talking about traditional repertoire, yeah, I know it, man. I know it, and I know bluegrass repertoire. I know I've played all the Beatles stuff, and I've had the conversations with guys, about playing. Do you play every Beatle thing? Like, no, I don't, dude. They were 22. I can't sing in those keys anymore. Like, real humans can't sing what Paul McCartney sang. Are you crazy? Like, yeah. So I often learn music. I'm talking about me. I learn things as research. I'm more of a researcher than a player. I think that's who I am.
Okay.
Right. So hence the reason I would be talking to Sean about stuff that I knew nothing about drumming. And I'm looking over Sean's shoulder while we're chatting here and looking and chuckling to myself because I know that Gene Simmons is like one of the biggest Beatle fans on the planet. Like, talk to me about great guitar playing and about knowing your shit. Well, that dude knows his shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Playing
for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me, Roger, let's go back for a second now because I want to hear more about the McGinty years. So how long you played with McGinty? What, 5-6 years?
Well, I started filling in for McGinty in the 80s. I've been every McGinty. I filled in, and at one point I just got too busy. When at my busiest, and some people will say things like this, but I assure you it's the truth. At my busiest, I was doing between 250 and 300 nights a year, and that was a lot back then, So wow. I would book in October for the whole year, and I did that probably for at least 2 decades, I would say. So, I played a lot with the boys. I just got busy. So Danny McKinnon came in and filled in with McGinty, but as you know, maybe Dave, maybe you don't know, but John Ferguson and I from McGinty played as a duo for would have been 10 years.
Yep.
He died.
I'm sorry.
And I filled, John, we did a lot of that stuff, but I would fill in for John when he was away prior to that. So they had gigs to finish up when John passed away, and I had stuff that I needed help with. So we finished off the year. John died Celtic Colors weekend. So that would be Thanksgiving weekend. And the deal was that I would fill in with the band till the end of December, and then we would discuss whether it was going to continue or not. So, yeah, Dave, I played with them 5 or 6 years now, but that was just because we kept going.
Right on.
Now, did I recall Joe Breen was telling me that maybe they're going to back that off?
Well, Donnie's he would want me to say how old he is.
Yeah.
No, but Donnie's like, Donnie's 68 or something. Like, these guys these guys went across the country. Like when the boys were, playing disco, McGinty was in in a truck and a trailer going across the country trying to keep the folk thing going. So these guys were no joke. I mean, they took the Don Messer show across the country. And Bob's a little younger than Don. They're getting tired, man. They both work day jobs. Donnie's a master upholsterer, has been with Ace Upholstery since it started. And the boys are just, they've done it all. They don't have to do it anymore. So Donnie needs a knee replacement. He stood up for 40 years doing upholstery, and he was waiting for surgery. So we had some gigs at the lower deck this year. So whether that happens or not, I don't know. I'm not going to count the boys out yet. Like we'll put together maybe a couple of shows, but I think their bar days are coming to an end. It was the oldest running band that I know of.
Like how many years?
42 years this year.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was the new guy. Joe's there before me, so we always joke about that. Yeah, Roger's the new guy, and Breen always says that he's the eye candy of the band.
Yeah, I get it.
That sounds like Joe too, for sure.
Oh, yeah. He's one funny dude. So but Donnie's kind of like comes from the days of the turtleneck sweater and singing the harmonies. So somehow Breen and I snuck in. Get Lucky with the banjo, and Donnie didn't know the song. He just thought the harmonies were cool. So we were doing Get Lucky with Donnie, and Donnie singing his ass off, had no idea where that song came from. It was the funniest thing ever. And this is while we're doing Song for a Winter's Night by Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah.
But I truly, I saw all the bands, right? I saw the original Signal Hill and all that. I saw them all, but I always said, that I felt McGinty were the ones that took the house party to the stage. They truly, they nailed down I played in Miller's Jug back in the 80s too, Sean. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
But so I really felt that the boys, because they were doing all the trad stuff, yet Donnie would just give you goosebumps singing The Boxer or his version of American Pie, or Donnie's a killer singer. We could go on, and I mean, I hung, and one of my greatest moments probably on stage. I had lots of good times, sitting in a bar, and we're friends. Sam Moon's there, and he's like, "Roger, would you do The Girls of Neil's Harbor?" I'm like, "You want me to sing The Girls of Neil's Harbor?" He said, "I just love the way you sing it." Guy that wrote The Girls of Neil's Harbor, who's the most humble, as you guys know. I heard you did a show with him. I don't know anything else. I apologize. I don't watch a lot of stuff. So
it's all good, brother.
But he's such a humble, lovely guy, right? What else can I say?
We had a great chat with Sam, and he you know what? The thing about Sam that I love is every time you talk to him, it's like he's the same old dude. You wouldn't know what he's done and what he's about, because he's just like this dude from Cape Breton that just meat and potatoes, and he's great.
No, and those guys they truly understood the concept. I mean, Dave Dobson taught me this. He was my greatest rock and roll teacher, right? I brought to him all the bluegrass stuff and all the folk stuff, but he taught me rock and roll. Nobody knew more about rock and roll than Dave Dobson. That's my humble opinion. And you just learn from these guys that they came from a near music bars in high schools, and you played it in dance halls. And if they look under the table and your foot's not tapping, dude, that song is gone. These boys were on it always. Yeah. So it's one gig to the next for these guys, and they truly understand the meaning of a gig, because it meant everything to them. You had to be a great dance player, or you were history.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to. I mean, I remember, everything. Like Sheldon used to talk about, Juddick on the floor, which I never got to ever. Well, and that's the thing, right? That's really. I mean, I played in Cape for 12 years, and we did, Celtic-ish tunes, but. I really wasn't. I wasn't ever immersed in that thing until I played in Caper.
Yeah. Well, you know, again, it's that thing I talked about, John. It's taking the house party to the States. I'm going back to McGinty again. Pull it back there. They were at the LBR, and I was in. I watched them when I was 19, and I probably 18, but yeah, that's another story. But you know, I watched these guys help to invent what we call maritime music.
Yeah.
Not Irish, not Scottish, no.
No.
You know, go tell somebody in Scotland, in Australia that the waltz that you know Wild Colonial Boy is an Irish song. They're gonna look at you like you're nuts because it was written about an Irish guy in Australia. So, you know, I grew up with those songs. I didn't. My grandfather sang them. My grandfather was born in 1869. So I didn't call them Irish songs. They were songs that my grandfather sang that my father sang and taught to me. That's what they were. So that's what I mean when I say maritime music. Okay.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure.
Taking the house party to the stage, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it. That's exactly it. And it's funny because we talk about this. What makes the Maritimes different as an eclectic musical family, and it's just because of that Irish, Scottish, Acadian, French, heritage, Mi'kmaq, like for First Nations, everything kind of put together and spits out a real pioneering spirit that it never was easy. So and it's funny, we're talking to Shirley Jackson and Brad Conrad, and I was never a big blues fan, but oh my God, I'm a big fan now because I get it, because it's that clawing your way up. It's it's not easy, and
well, we could have a long talk. I mean, I hung with the boys from Shanneyganock and been over to Newfoundland and played with them, and they're, the Atlantic provinces was about people that worked in the sea, on the sea. They worked underground. They worked in the woods.
That's right.
You could die. You could die that day. So yeah, these guys went hard. They went hard at their work, and they went hard when it was time to play. Boy, they went hard. Yeah, so. Yeah. These people are passionate about their music. When you saw, all these old fiddlers that I saw as a kid playing, these guys were, Winston Fitzgerald worked Stott Aluminum, and this guy worked with the highways, Department of Highways. Carl McKenzie was an engineer. Like these guys were all, Jimmy Inch's dad was Jimmy Inch, an engineer. Yeah. Like all these cats are. So if you come from a culture where people could die at their job, yeah, they're pretty passionate about shit that they do.
Sure. Yeah, they make. Fair enough. I love that. I love that. That really encapsulates what the Maritimes and the Atlantic provinces are all about. You're right. Yeah, it's work hard, play hard, right?
Exactly.
And that's
Commander with your ears back. That's the way I say it.
Well, that's it. Pin your ears back and go for it. And we were talking last night with one of our guests, and my grandfather was a painter at the Fortress of Louisbourg for 50 years. I don't even want to paint my goddamn.
Did you ever fucking finish it?
You know what they used to do? I kid you not.
The walls kept falling down.
Well, that's it. They would start one thing and they go and they paint the whole thing, and at the end of about 7 years, they'd be right back where they started, and just repeat. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't even want to paint my kitchen, and he did that for 50 years. So it's a great point, man. It's really people work hard at shit that they don't want to do so they can have fun with their music, right?
I've had these conversations late at night in bars with people from out west going, "Oh, you guys drink a lot down here." And I'm like, "Well, dude, next time you go out in a 28-foot boat and a 30-foot wave, talk to me, because you may not get home that night." I remember the old man saying, I said, "Did Grandpa, our people came from Normandy in France originally. I go by Stone. That's Mom's name. That story, Sean. But I'm Cote, really. Mom and Dad got married, after I was born. But, these guys were like, crazy. And I'm like, "Dad, did Grandpa swim?" And Dad's like, "Swim? Dude, you're 5 to 10 miles out at sea. If you fall in the water, you're going to die anyway." So they didn't swim because they die faster.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's a good fucking
sure.
Yeah.
So that's I'm serious, boys. I'm telling you exactly.
Why prolong the agony? Hey, that's true. That's a good point. You're not swimming 10 miles.
That's Cape Breton, man. That's Cape Breton right there, man. It's very matter of fact, and it's very, don't feel sorry for yourself. No. Pick yourself up and freaking get moving. Yeah. You know what I mean? Sure. I love it. And it's funny because I play now with Kyle and Ryan Boudreau, and they're from Ayrshire. And one of their cousins, Rocky Boudreaux. That's what he does. He's a lobster fisherman.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, God love those guys, man. I mean, they worked the friggin' arses off for a short period of time, but man, they worked.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean, right?
22 hours a day.
Yeah, I was born in Ayrshire, so I always say I was born on an island off the island, right? So it's one thing to be born in Cape Breton, but it's another thing to be born on an island off the island of Cape Breton.
Exactly.
But yeah, I know. Kyle's a great singer, man. Great.
Oh, you know what? Dave and I were talking. So one night, Dave and I were jamming with a friend of ours, and then I said to Dave, I said, well, Kyle's doing an open mic at the shoe shop, and it was like a Wednesday night, so we should go down. So it was funny. So we go in, and they're doing a bunch of tunes. And anyway, they did 2 or 3 Ain't Bad by Meatloaf is what they ended with. Dave called me the next day. He goes, Kyle's voice is haunting me. That's exactly what he said. And I didn't laugh. My first line to Dave was, you know what? I take that for granted because I hear the guy every friggin' night. And I just assume, hey, everybody's got a singer like this, but not the case, right?
No.
Now he's back to what we were just talking about. It's like, I could be dead tomorrow. Balls to the wall. Give her everything you got.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's his family. It's his whole family's like that. I met a lot of them now. They're just beautiful people. And it is that hardworking French heritage, Acadian background. They're just in it to win it. You know what I mean? And I love those folks. I just love them.
It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and I mean, and you probably haven't seen it. Like Ryan and I mean, like, I've been playing with 7 years with Ryan now. And he and I are, we get along great. And it's just, similar to when Dave and I play, because Dave and I only get together and play every 10 years, but it's like we haven't not played together. Same sort of thing. And everybody's got their bass players or guitar players that they like to play with and they're comfortable with. So it's fun. So I'm gonna throw that out to you now because I'm just thinking segue. Who are some of the guys you like to play with?
Oh my! Well, as I said, probably the greatest warrior that I can think of in terms of the last 20 years or so was Dave Dobson. Like, just he counted the first tune in while you were playing yours. He was thinking about the best next one. He was always on his game. There was never dead air because they come from that era of tick, tick, tick with the drumsticks, right?
Yeah.
Next song. Because he played, what was his band called? Oh my goodness. He had 2 different bands, but Bruce Dixon was his bass player, for Christ's sakes. Rocks was their band. Rocks. And they had a band, I don't know if it was Sandy Road or that was Frank McKay's, but they had a band like that.
Bruce Dixon was in Sandy Road for sure, yeah.
Okay, well then that was it. But anyway, yeah. So Dobson's was a great one. Mike Doyle, probably one of the greatest singers from I think Mike was from St. John.
Yes, and I'll tell you something quickly about Mike, Roger. And it doesn't happen to me a lot. I'd heard him play before, so obviously I knew what his pedigree was and I knew his talent. But he got up and he did Talks to Angels by Black Crowes with us one night. And I was just like, this was probably one of we didn't tape it and I wish we had him. It was just unreal. And I mean, he did it in, the standard tuning of whatever it was. It wasn't so down, 2.5 steps, right?
Listen, when I hear somebody singing Don't Stop Believing, I go, that's great, boys, you're doing it in E, but let's hear you sing it in the next octave.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So Mike Doyle sings Don't Stop. He sang it in the same key as Steve Perry.
Yeah.
And I witnessed it. No, Doyle's brilliant. Probably one that, I would never say it to him because, I would never want him to think I think he's any good.
Yeah. I hear
but I think Joe Breen might be one of the greatest players I ever played.
Oh, you know what? And I've it's funny because I met Joe. I didn't know Joe. This past year, I was telling you my youngest was hanging out with his daughter, and we're at a hockey game, and he's sitting there talking to Mike Fougier, and Mike's like, "What are you doing here?" And Joe's like, "I'm here to friggin' make sure that my daughter's not hanging out with some McKenna kid." And I turn around and I'm like, anyway, and that's how was my introduction to Joe. And I spent a lot of time with him, man, and just great guy, man, great guy. He's funny as hell. Yeah,
he's all kinds of stuff. He's a friggin' genius. He's, I don't know, but musically, Breen you know, he would play anywhere. He would play in a blues shithouse, you know. Like that guy is like, yeah, you can barely get me to play, you know, like, I mean, I love to sing and I love to play, but I play, most of my playing is alone,
Mhm.
really.
Yeah.
But Breen, man, I used to do I did an open mic thing at Freeman's in Fairview a few years back. And, Breen would come over like every Tuesday night and play with me. I'm like, are you crazy? You're driving from goddamn the woods over, you know, and he'd be there beside me, boy, and we're, you know, I don't know, it's just crazy about playing. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
Have you been to Joe's studio?
Well, yeah, I've done a few albums there, actually. We did at least one McGinty album there, but I've done different recordings there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, he's a wizard.
Oh yeah. He's got some Dave. We'll have to go over. He's got some unreal instruments.
Oh yeah. Well, Breen is he's you know, if he can't figure it out, you're not, you know, nobody else is. He's just that guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's very smart.
I mean,
very smart.
he's got beautiful stand-up bass that you walk in. It's one of the first things that you see in his
five string, I might add.
Yeah, and he's got an endorsement. Yeah.
He ordered that special 5-string.
Yeah.
Dave, you should go play it, dude. It's the real deal. It's not some old plywood piece of junk from the 70s. This is the real thing.
Wow. We'll hook up with Joe. We got to get Joe on the show. And
he'd be great on the show. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
His band.
He's endorsed by. He's got a bass endorsement, and so he told me, because I was in Fredericton and I went in to check them out. It's Tony's Music is the only place that carries it. I guess Long McQuaid doesn't. I can't remember what the name of the basses are, but they're beautiful.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he got the last couple of basses from the States.
Yeah.
They're made like the old Fender Precisions now. I can't remember I'm sorry, I suck at that stuff. It's not my world, but you know, Breen is one of those guys. Like some guys buy stuff, and they, you know, just because they want to talk about the new stuff that they bought. But Breen buys stuff because it's excellent. Like, he'll order in cords, little tiny cables that go between your pedals that are $20 a piece. Like, who in the hell buys that $20 or $30?
But you know what? I fucking get it, because you buy the $6 ones and they break after 4 or 5 weeks. So I get it.
What Breen says, man. He buys the best shit that he can buy. He wants it to work for him always.
The first time, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm at that point now. I had the money to do it now, so I'll buy the stuff that works. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because I always, Jesus, I used to carry a soldering gun with me on the road. It's like, oh, you never know when that cord's going to break, and you got to, fuck that. Fuck.
We didn't have to. We had Scooter with us in McGinty.
Yeah.
Okay. If Pat Leonard can't fix it, nobody on the planet can fix it.
Yeah, throw it away and get another one for sure.
Throw it away.
All right, we're getting into time here now, so I just have a couple more questions for you now, Roger. So I'd like to know, it seems to me when I saw you playing at the Triangle, I thought, now I could be wrong, you were playing at Taylor? What's your point?
No, what I've played for 28, no, I don't know how many years it is now. I play what you see me playing mostly is a parlor guitar. It's a Seagull Grand Artist. They only made a few of them. People say, oh yeah, my friend's got one like that. No, they don't. The one I play is a spruce top, solid mahogany back, laminated mahogany sides.
Right.
They were in 1998. They were $1,300. The ones you see around are $500 and $600. It had 2 sets of keys. It's had 8 fret jobs. It's probably played 4,000 or 5,000 gigs. That's what you see me playing, Dave.
Okay. I stand corrected. Yeah, and I remember you showing it to me, and I remember being kind of amazed. You were so proud of it. But you're right, though, it was a smaller scale, which was because the sound that came out of it.
It's what guitars were. Before the Dreadnought, that was it. Yeah. That is the size of the guitar.
The parlor guitar. That's right. But
yeah,
because you were doing like a little bit of like you were like doing a little bit of rhythm on it too, and it sounded awesome. I just couldn't believe the sound that came out of that little guitar.
It has had three of the same pickups in it, the same kind. No, that thing's a beast. I even tried to sell it once. I taught at the Folklore for like 20 years, so it's like my home, you know. And I tried to sell it, and everybody come in and go, Jesus, I can't buy that. That's Roger's guitar. Like people actually said they wouldn't buy it because it was funny. So finally the boy said, please come and take this guitar. Nobody wants to buy it. Because it's yours. So, okay. So anyway, I'll never sell it again. No.
That's awesome.
No,
and I got some pretty serious guitars, let me tell you, that I could be playing. But no, that old beast, I plug it in and it's done the job every time.
I hear you, bud. Because you know what, I'm the same. Like I'm a sound guy. You can get me a brand spanking sparkly new drum kit, and I could find some old beat up piece of shit snare, and if it sounds like $1 million, that's what I gravitate to. I'm not a name brand guy. I've had the same ride cymbal since I was 13 years old. I kid you not. And it's got the old friggin' green sweat blobs on it, and it looks like a piece of shit. And it sounds like $1 million. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, that's my whole life.
Yeah.
Looks like a piece of shit. Sounds like $1 million. That's how I want to be remembered.
Yeah, that's what'll go on your tombstone.
Yeah, man. That's gonna be my last album title.
I love that.
Well, I'd buy it. I'd fucking buy it.
I'd be honored if you let me play in a track.
Yeah, Sean and I will sit in. That's it.
Co-produced by Dave McPherson and Sean.
Yeah, that's right. That'd be so awesome.
Why?
Well, I got to tell you, brother, I'm glad we did this. And do me a favor, because I got a new phone. So please direct message me your digits so I can put them in my phone.
Absolutely, man, and thank you so much for having. I'm not one to do this stuff a lot, but
look, this is a fucking riot. This is, we could have talked all night long, but it's just like Jesus.
Oh,
Christ.
for sure.
Yeah, because this is what we. This is people ask me about what we do here. This is it. We talk to old friends, new friends, whatever it keeps to be. Talk about shit that we normally would talk about in a bar, but we're in front of a fucking camera because there's a pandemic going on. That's what it's all about, and we're gonna keep on doing it.
In closing, I think that's perfect for me right there. People will ask me, what are your greatest memories of playing and all that stuff? And you know what, dude? I wouldn't trade anything for sitting in that smoky ass little room where Sean and I and Caper and the boys used to sit and chat. And I had great times on stage, but I wouldn't have traded that for anything, Sean. It's one of my fondest memories.
Well, and appreciate it. And it's funny because, and it's going to sound like we're going to get all bromance huggy here, but this is exactly what I said to Dave that this would be like. I said, Roger's going to get on there, and it's truly going to be what the theme of the show was. A bunch of guys sitting around, swigging a beer, talking about music and having some fun and laughing. And you didn't disappoint, man. It was fantastic. I'm so glad we did this.
Thank you very much, lads.
I'm a little surprised you did the G-rated version, though. I was expecting more curse words, but that's okay.
Well, I'm pretty good at it. Like, I come from.
We can bring you back.
Long line of fuckers,
Yeah, that's right. But please send me your number, man, and I'll shoot you a text and we'll go for a beer.
Absolutely, boy. Yeah. Well, and I hope, Dave, we all get to hang out, the three of us.
Oh, brother, I'm looking forward to it. Really, truly, I'm looking forward to it, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
All right.
It'd be my pleasure.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very much, Roger, for coming on, brother.
We
see you on the other side, man, because it's we're getting out of this.
You bet. Yeah, on the other side of 19.
Yeah,
that's right.
We want 2020 hindsight. Fuck this year.
Cha-ching.
Yeah,
brother.
All right, boys. See ya. Thanks a lot.
Barstools, Bandtalk.